Yo, this is Terrell, Hall of Fame D-Line. This one, I can have a little more energy on this one. I'm just so over that, the nonsense breeding. But anyway, last week's show, I guess I had mentioned where I felt like that the edge blood had actually fallen off. And we hear that term a lot of the times, the edge is dead, which I don't believe. But I think the reason it's not the powerhouse that it once was, as far as a total domination, it's very many reasons to that story. One of the reasons is as I've said in a previous rant, is that the original, when the edge was really making its push, you had an elite edge group that had a lot of kennels that were really pushing that one specific look. And and taking it everywhere, and a lot of people weren't hip to the bully game, so it allowed us to put a stamp on that particular look and that particular blood. Now as it progressed, Dave Wilson stopped breeding pretty much, so the torch was passed to other breeders. And to be honest, a lot of the old school guys who were breeding like a true edge look, they don't even breed anymore. They just sort of gave up on it. In the new era guys, and I'll split this into two parts. You had a situation where branding came in. And for those that don't know what I mean by branding, is everything became a line, or or a blood, or so you had everybody who would just take one dog and try to make basically him his own line. Well, what happened when you started that process is a lot of those guys sort of, because of competition factors, cut out the rest of the community. No one wanted to let their stud's best offspring be on somebody else's yard, and no one else wanted to say, hey, I can get that blood here and I can sell it to you cheaper if I want to. And by the better studs being locked in like that, and you saw a lot of button heads, to where even if it was in a friendly manner, it was still a lot of button heads, as to where no one was working together like it originally was. Originally, like I say, it was a bunch of people working together for one cause. Once you start especially bringing in that heavy money factor and higher stud fees and different things of that nature, it became competitive. And with the competitive nature, nobody worked together. Forever, and I said it on the show, and I consider myself to be cool with Marco and Fabian, but I feel like that Remy line and Paco, I feel like that two of the biggest mistakes that was made in that blood's history was those dogs not being bred, to other edge dogs more. Concentration. There was a lot of good edge dogs back then. Thing, and we could go on and on. Kamali, Manu, you name it. It was plenty of them back there. One of my all-time favorites, Nemesis. But these dogs still had the same basic head structure, a lot of like characteristics. Well, because of not wanting to basically open the door for other people to come in and take over what they felt like they had, and I'm not just talking about those two breeders in particular, but a lot of times the remedy was either I'm going to heavy inbreed in my own yard, or I'm going to try to outcross the Gotti. And the bigger problem is a lot of times when you outcross the Gotti, for many different reasons, sometimes the dogs came back and they looked like edge dogs but beefier. That was what you were looking for. Sometimes the dogs went totally in a different direction, and like I said, that's for many different reasons that we would have to go into something else for. But you saw the look of the dog start to dissipate. Just like with the heavy amount of inbreeding, you start seeing dogs get smaller, lose bone, more and more flaws. It was the inbreeding was too tight, and there went that. And and pretty much that really does, like I had another part to that, but that was sort of it, because that dissipated the edge blood. If you are trying to breed razor's edge dogs, and this is just from me, somebody else may tell you different, but I've managed to pretty much keep that look in my yard over the last forever. You must breed back to a lot of edge dogs. You can outcross inside the blood work, because Remy to Nemesis blood would technically, that would be an outcross. Just like Denzel to Bistro, that was technically an outcross. The blood wasn't super tight, but in the dogs, I get the same look, I get the same characteristics, so I haven't changed a lot. And that's going to be a key if you're breeding this blood. So, you know, if anything, if people ask, you know, about the look, I don't think it's dead. I see quite a few good breeders that have it. But the reason why it's not so prevalent and you don't see more and more of it like you used to, it's just bottom line is, you know, breeding that didn't keep the look, you know. A ton of outcrosses, a ton of inbreeding, and if you look at pedigrees, it's razor edge all over the place, but the look is not the same. And that's pretty much, you know, all I have to say about that one. We'll go on to the next one. Peace.